Coming to you from Austin, Texas on this overcast, balmy day, it's Color Commentary, and we are Michael Petchek.
And Adrian Gonzalez.
And joining us today is Will Lesak, aka Pauper Fox. How's it going?
Hey, pretty good. It's really rainy over here, so the day's pretty cloudy, but it's Saturday, so that's always a good thing.
Yep, enjoying that weekend break.
Oh, yeah.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, what you do for a living, any hobbies outside of Magic. Obviously, you know, I think most people in our circle know that you produce deck tech videos on pretty much a weekly basis.
Yeah,
Every
once every Saturday, yep.
Yep.
So I live in Frankfort, Illinois, which is kind of out in the middle of nowhere. It's like an hour south of Chicago, and I am a marketing specialist at an engineering firm.
Okay.
So I do graphic design, video editing for them, and that was actually my major in college.
Nice.
Yeah, so a lot of people were like, "Oh man, your videos are like really good for your first video." And I'm like, "Yeah, well, I kind of had my background in it, so it kind of helped." Other hobbies besides Magic, I play a lot of Rocket League. I don't know if you guys play Rocket League on
I'm aware.
PS4 or
of it.
Xbox?
PC.
No. Okay, that's
Yeah,
good.
I've built my own PC. I'm a pretty big PC guy.
Nice.
I like to bike ride. I go on bike rides a lot. Soccer. Played soccer my whole life. Other
Arsenal or Man
hobbies?
U?
Arsenal or Man U?
Yeah.
Chelsea.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Did you just come up with the only two soccer teams you could come up with, Adrian?
No, I know about Arsenal and Man U. I have friends who are big Arsenal fans, and they're always, raving about Man U.
Yeah, I used to be a big like Premier League watcher, but I stopped playing when I got to college, and then I kind of stopped paying attention. So
Gotcha.
yeah.
All right. Well, this week we're going to kick things off with our a little deck tech. And this is actually the deck that we are in case you haven't noticed, we did a collaboration with Will. We helped out with a video on his channel, and he agreed to join us on the podcast. And we're doing a deck tech of the exact same deck we covered there.
But in case you missed it, we'll do it here too.
Yeah.
But go check out that video also, because that's definitely our, we get to flex our muscles a little over there. It's good.
Yeah, yeah. Go into a little more detail.
Yeah. So this is Simic Turbo Fog, which recently had a couple 5-0s, which, nothing to sneeze at, Definitely not like a top tier deck, and I don't think it ever will be, but it definitely, has its place within the meta. So we're just going to kind of quickly go through this deck list and then sort of have an open discussion about it, just since we kind of have there's a video that's going to be out today of all this information anyway. So so the main chunk of the deck is, it's WinCon. It's got 4 copies of Jace's Erasure, 1 in a blue. It's an enchantment. Whenever you draw 1, you mill 1. Then it's got a whole pile of fog effects and a bunch of draw spells. And that's, for lack of a better way, like that's the main gist of the deck.
That's pretty much it. Yeah, it's pretty simple to play too.
Yeah.
It's also like the only deck where I like Brainstorm, and you know my feelings on Brainstorm, but it's actually good here because it also mills your opponent for 3 cards whenever you cast it.
At least 3 cards.
Yeah, 3 or more. Like this like if you have the God Hand and you manage to stick 4 copies of Jace's Erasure, that becomes a mill 12, which so actually a good thing to talk about is like how to view like the efficiency of mill spells. So if you're gonna it's kind of like playing burn, right? You're just trying to count to a certain number,
Right.
and in this case it's give or take 53 because your opponent's gonna have the 7 card hand taken out of their deck. So 12 cards out of 53 is like almost a quarter. Like that's paying like 1 mana for a Lava Axe kind of
Right. Yeah, but
So-
you also need 4 of those on the field, which I don't know how common that is, but
Yeah. So and then like there's other like really powerful draw spells in here, like Preordained to kind of set everything up. 4 copies of that. 4 copies of Accumulated Knowledge, because over the course of the game that's 10 cards drawn for 8 mana.
Yeah, another example of where accumulated knowledge is maybe better than think twice.
Yeah,
I
we
agree.
Like maybe one of the only spots really, but still good.
Yeah. And then like, and after that, it really just comes down to like which fogs you want to use. And the specific list we picked has 4 copies of good old fog, just one green mana, prevent all combat damage until end of turn. Then also 4 copies of Moment's Peace, which is 1 and a green for the same effect, but it has flashback for 2 and a green. And then we've got 4 copies of Tangle, which is fog, but any attacking creatures don't untap during their during their owner's next.
Tangle is brutal.
Yeah.
Like Tangle's good enough that sometimes it sees like sideboard play and Stompy to help in the matchups where you're really racing. It's a powerful card. There's a reason why it was only ever an uncommon in Paper.
Yeah, it was downshifted in VMA.
Yeah, this is a Vintage Masters like so it's a card that was included in a set that casually has the Power 9 in it. So like
Just casually.
yeah. Just like toss in a Black Lotus there. That can't lead to a bad draft experience, right?
No, not at all.
They had a special rarity. It was cool.
They did. Though I did hear plenty of stories from the pre-release last week of similar things with someone turn 1 soul ringing.
Conversely, we did have one of our friends tell us last night that they had a turn 1 mana crypt and they lost 7 straight flips in a row. So
Wow. Wow.
Which is one of those kind of bittersweet stories because like yeah, you lost a game, but
you opened a mana crypt.
Yeah. How much is that going for now?
It's like 150 actually. All the prices on those are dropping like stones.
Jeez.
That's
Yeah,
good.
it's actually a little like weird how quickly they dropped. But also, okay, back to our deck tech. We've also got like Muddle the Mixture, which is actually like decently expensive now because it gets played in Modern. But it's got Transmute, which is one of my favorite mechanics in Pauper.
Same.
It only shows up on a handful of spells. It was the ability keyword for Dimir.
Yeah,
in
Dimir.
The original Ravnica block, and all of these spells have 1, and then it's either 2 blue, 2 black, or a black and a blue for the transmute cost. And what transmute does is you get to search your library for a card with the same converted mana cost, and then shuffle your library, and transmute only as a sorcery. So in this deck, Muddle the Mixture, which costs 2 blue and counters an instant or sorcery, it tutors for everything except the 4 copies of Brainstorm, the 4 copies of Fog, and the 4 copies of Preordain, and obviously the lands.
Yeah, so it lets you get accumulated knowledge if you need some card draw,
Yep.
arcane denial if you need to counter something. It lets you get your Jace's Erasure.
Yep.
Lets you get your fog effects like Tangle and Moment's Peace. And I think the best part about Transmute is that it's uncounterable,
Yes.
which is huge.
For what it's worth, you can Muddle the Mixture for another Muddle the Mixture.
Oh.
I don't know why you would, but you could.
Yeah, you can use it to counter instant or sorcery. So the nice thing about Muddle the Mixture is that it has some use outside of its transmute ability, and a lot of decks that have transmute cards just use it to transmute, but this has a little added upside on it.
Yeah, Drift of Phantasms I think is pretty useless outside of its transmutation.
Yeah.
So the other one that I should point out, the other 2 mana transmute spell, I believe it's Shred Memory, is actually seeing some play right now in Reanimator lists. And Shred Memory is 1 and a black, exile up to 3 cards from target player's graveyard. So it actually works against Drake and other graveyard-based decks, and it also transmutes for Exhume.
Is it an instant?
I believe so.
Okay. Wow, that's pretty good.
Yeah, it like those are the only 2 that I think are really like playable for their non-tutoring abilities.
Yeah.
Like the rest of them seem like, okay, this is a way to tutor for spells with CMC 1 or CMC 3 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But in this deck, it its role as a counterspell is not to be underestimated. Then in terms of like the lands, the only sort of thing that's interesting is we got 6 fetches split across Evolving Wilds and Terramorphic, and that's for Brainstorm.
We also have 6 artifact lands, 4 Seed of the Synods, and 2 Treaty Tails. And what we can do is there's actually a Quiet Disrepair in the main and then 3 in the board. And we can actually enchant those to continuously gain life over the course of the game.
Yeah, and obviously, with the artifact lands, there's always the added upside of protection from Wrenchmind, even though that's not a huge deal right now, given that Mono Black hasn't really had the best run of things lately.
No, I was hoping Drake would get banned so it could come back, but we saw what happened, or didn't happen.
Speaking thereof, and actually we had this discussion before we recorded the videos with you, there are 3 Fairy Macabres in the sideboard, and we were really debating about whether or not those would be relevant after we recorded that, but they're still totally relevant cards in the sideboard, it turns out.
Yep.
Again, also, though, an uncounterable way to get something done.
Right. Abilities super strong.
Yeah, and the rest of the sideboard is pretty much what you'd expect, 3 copies Dispel, 4 copies of Scattershot Archer, a Lignify, which is kind of interesting. It's 1 and a green, it's an enchantment or enchant target creature. Enchanted creature is an 0/4 tree folk with no abilities, which, is pseudo removal and actually works really well if your opponent's got something with an activated ability on it.
Yeah.
Also, probably good to stick on a Crusher.
Crusher, Fangrand Marauder, all that stuff. Yeah. You can also transmute for it.
Because
you can.
The reason I was thinking Crusher is because the Fogs won't stop the Annihilator ability.
Yes, which actually brings me to an interesting thing. So this is the Simic, the blue-green version. There is also a Bant version of this that adds white into the mix. And one of the cool things you get is Moment of Silence, which is actually it's basically tech for things with on attack triggers such as Crusher, because what it is, I believe it's 1 and a white. Target player skips their next combat phase.
Pretty sneaky.
That's awesome.
Yeah, because one of the issues this deck does have is, if they have an Ulamog's Crusher, you can prevent all the combat damage you want. It's still going to be chewing through 2 permanents a turn. And that's pretty good at locking you out of the game.
There's also Stonehorn Dignitary. It's 3 and a white. Do they run that?
I don't think so, but you could make like a argument for like a deck that runs that and like Ghostly Flicker and Archaeomancer.
Moment's Peace.
There was a guy I played once at a GP in Modern who was playing Kiki Court, and he ran Ghostway and Stonehorn Dignitary, and that was super obnoxious.
Oh, yeah. Not
okay.
Moment's Peace.
An Eternal Witness. But yeah, same thing there with Archaeomancer and Stonehorn Dignitary, basically.
Yeah, flickering that would just be, oh man, that feels so good.
But yeah, so this is kind of an interesting deck. It's kind of a perennial, like, tier 2 or 3 kind of deal. There is one guy who produces content for Magic Gathering Strat occasionally, Pierrecore, who he's the one who's a big proponent of this deck. He's 5-0'd with it a couple times. Not this particular version, but if you want to check out some videos of someone playing Turbo Fog who knows the deck inside and out, Pierrecore, Pierakor, all one word. He's done, plenty of streams with it and really knows the deck inside and out.
The only big problem with it that I can see is it seems a little soft to Drake, which is, of course, represented in the sideboard. But game 1, like, Drake doesn't care about Fogs, right? They'll just wait out until they get the combo.
Yeah.
They do draw a lot of cards, though.
It's true.
And technically, I know I'm verging into Magical Christmas land here. If you happen to mill all of their Drakes, I feel like you're in a pretty okay spot.
Yeah, if you happen to mill all the Drakes or all the Archaeomancers, they probably will have a tough time winning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because that deck has no graveyard recursion in it for creatures.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But, also this deck is a deck that has problems with, like, very quick aggressive decks like Stompy. Or even sometimes, like, God, what is the name of it? Delver Fiend. Eye Candy. That decks like that just go so quickly, it can have issues with.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of some of your ideal matchups here are like, this is actually very good against teachings
Ooh, yes.
because they're already drawing so many cards out of their own deck where, you know, it's like playing against someone. It's like being in Legacy and playing against someone who's running Shocklands instead of original duels.
Is this really good against teachings? Because they get so much value out of their graveyard, and they don't really care about your fogs.
I've played against teachings with a Turbo Fog list. It is actually really a good matchup.
All right, I'll take your word for it.
Because here's the thing, you know, you don't care about what they're doing with their graveyard, so you let them flash back their think twices. You let them tutor for whatever. It just goes very, very quickly.
They also run a lot of mainboard creature removal, and we don't have any of those. So
That's true.
Yep.
there's a lot of dead cards.
So they're usually, you know, digging for answers. Meanwhile, you know, they're helping you mill them out. The only catch really is, you know, if they get capsize online, that can be a problem. Just because they can either capsize lock you or just, you know, bounce your Jace's Erasures and counter them on the way back. But I feel like it has a surprisingly solid matchup against teachings, which kind of feels like it might not be so good, but you know,
I would like to try it out because I hate playing against teachings.
I got teaching decks online. Let's do it.
We should do it. Stream it.
So actually, another thing I did want to mention is when we were actually working on the video for Will's channel, we were in a Skype call, and I mentioned Entourage of Trest, which is a Conspiracy 2 card, which who knows when it will hit online. I think they said late November, right? They're going to have some of the Conspiracy 2 stuff online.
Yeah, they're going to be releasing it in the treasure chests.
Yeah. So Entourage of Trest is 4 and a green for a 4/4, and it says when it enters the battlefield, you become the monarch. And in case you've forgotten, because you know there's been so many releases over the past couple months, being the monarch is, you know, a state-based deal where as long as you are the monarch, you draw an extra card at the end of your turn. And in addition to that, if someone deals combat damage to you, they become the monarch. So and Entourage of Trest as well, while you're the monarch, can block a second creature. So this, like, you're playing fog effects. You're not likely to get hit during combat.
Even if you do get hit, then they are drawing an extra card a turn, and that kind of helps you out too.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously better when it's on your side of the table. Right. Also, the fact that you have a 4/4, like, you can get away with not using a fog because it can block 2 things.
Right. And a lot of the, you know, creatures that might be blocking will be like 2/2s or 3/3s. So
Yeah.
really, it just gets eaten by Angler, but whatever.
Almost everything does.
Just fog. Just fog instead. It's cool.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, you know, you do it situationally, and you know, against selling like, you know, I don't know, like white tokens or Soul Sisters, that thing is just chewing up two creatures a turn.
Right.
And you know, if they want to pop a Guardian's Pledge to, you know, eat it, that's up to them.
It's also an elf, which is interesting.
Ooh. Yeah, Timberwatch fog? Nah. Interesting though.
Maybe it'll see some play in elves.
I'm really hoping that they get most of the commons from Conspiracy 2 online, because it's frustrating that like we don't have what is the one that people always harp about? Custody Squire from the first Conspiracy. 4 and a white, 3/3 flyer, and it's got Will of the Council. Everyone votes on either an artifact, creature, or enchantment, I believe, in your graveyard. And you return whatever has the most votes or tied for the most votes to your hand.
It's a white Gravedigger.
It's a white Gravedigger / Oromancer / do we have a name for like artifact recursion creatures?
Yeah, it's Sanctum Gargoyle.
Ah, there you go. So it's
a
little bit of it's a little bit of all of those jammed together, and it's at least an interesting card. So, you know, it's a shame that it never made it online, so we don't know quite where it fits.
Probably control. But let's talk a little bit about the cost of this deck. There are a lot of cards in here that are a little expensive, but that you can use in other decks. So I'm showing this list would be 25.48 on Moto and 46.17 in paper. So it's not the priciest deck, but most of the value seems to be tied up in the Tangles and Muddle the Mixtures, which, you know, are just kind of expensive because they're kind of hard to find. But the one thing that really caught my eye is, good God, our fourth seed of the Synod is really $6.
Yeah.
Is that Moto pricing or?
That is paper.
That's incredible.
Yeah. The artifact lands are worth a bunch, even though we're the only format that plays them besides Legacy, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, they were printed once, I guess. Most of them were. I think some of them were printed twice.
I think almost all of them have a secondary printing.
What was it, like Plane Chase or something?
Yeah, so Plane Chase is one, and then Commander is another one for the red one.
The blue one shows up in one of the dual decks.
Oh, okay.
I want to say it's Venser versus Koth, maybe.
But these fog effects that are in the main board are played in the sideboard in a lot of other decks, Tangle and Moment's Peace both. And then Muddle the Mixture is just one of those cards where it's so niche and so fringe, and it does something really unique. So you might not be able to play it in a lot of other decks, but what it does is really cool. And then there's Preordains and Brainstorms, which also look like they might cost a bit. But those are played in a lot of decks and, you know, a variety of formats, so they're also a good pickup. So overall, you might not be getting a lot of the cross-reference that you might be getting out of, like, say, Mono Blue Delver, but there is definitely some crossover here. So even if you shell out the money for this deck, you're not just with a deck that doesn't have any, you know, recursive pieces.
Yeah, I definitely think, like, there's a decent amount of this that is kind of restricted to this one list, but I don't know. I don't think it's, you know, the worst purchase. I would not recommend it for a new player. It is like a fairly skill-intensive deck, and, you know, it doesn't have a lot of great matchups. So, you know, I don't like recommending decks to new players where they're going to have a bad time.
Yeah, but that being said, Turbo Fog is sweet. It's definitely a deck that comes up every now and again in Standard. Like the last one there was that Gates deck with Maze's End and Gate Crash. Yes. That Standard that people liked.
I did play that in Standard, actually. It was fun.
So if you miss those days, this deck might be for you. You don't have the gate win condition, so you have to actually mill your opponent out. That being said, I have some hang-ups about mill in general, but this is probably the best mill deck in Pauper.
There's no way to cycle your graveyard back into your library in Pauper, is there?
Online, no. In paper, there is Felden's Cane, which is 1 mana artifact, tap, exile it, shuffle your graveyard into your library.
Okay.
But so there's no like Elixir of Immortality.
Yeah.
No. But no one really runs it just because mill is such an incidental strategy that even in paper you're probably pretty good.
Yeah.
All right. Will, do you want to introduce our card for the maybe board this week?
Yeah, sure. So this week we're taking a look at Warden of Evos Isle. And I'm going to pull it up real quick. So if someone wants to say what the converted mana cost is and stuff.
It's 4, right? It's
no,
3
it
and
is
blue.
3. It is 2
2
and blue.
Okay, that's
2 and blue for, I believe, a 2/2 flyer?
2/2 flyer, bird wizard. It's got flying, and creature spells with flying you cast cost 1 less to cast.
And this was a downshift in Eternal Masters.
Yes. It was originally printed in Magic 2014.
Yep.
Also, the artist is Nils Ham.
Yes, it's got that gorgeous, like, dreamlike Niels Ham art.
Oh yeah, this in foil would look sweet.
So you were the one who suggested this, I believe, and let's get into what you're thinking of putting with this.
So in draft, like, there's always a blue-white Flyers deck. So I've been messing around with this card. I'm trying to create a blue-white Flyers deck in Pauper, and I think there's some merit to it because there's a lot of Flyers in Pauper and a lot of Flyers in blue-white.
Yeah. And what we're looking for here is stuff that's slightly overcosted or, you know, efficient, but would be really good if it cost 1 generic less.
Right.
It'll be really good in that deck, Custody Squire.
It would.
It would, yeah.
A 4-mana 3/3 flyer with no other text is actually okay. Like, the fact that you're also getting that ETB effect is just upside.
Yeah, so a lot of the cards that I'm thinking that go with this have enter the battlefield effects. Like Squadron Hawk seems pretty sweet.
Yeah,
Just
turning
W.
yeah, just a 1/1 flyer for one that tutors 3 other copies of itself seems pretty okay.
Yeah, and then they all cost just 1 white. So,
Yeah.
and then Mole Drifter is amazing with this card because you can evoke it, and the evoke cost actually costs 1 less.
Yep. Two mana draw 2 seems with like actual no downside seems pretty good.
Yeah. The nice thing about Warden too is that it has flying, so other copies of it cost 1 less to
Yes.
cast. So you can just like go off with this thing, and the more you have, the cheaper all your stuff is. So you could actually play a Mole Drifter evoked for just 1 blue mana.
You could actually, if you get all 4 of them on the battlefield, you could just hard cast Mulder.
Oh my god.
The dream.
Yeah,
The
live
dream. Oh yeah.
And then you get blown out by Echoing Decay.
But yeah, like there's so many things where it's just like this would be better if it cost 1 less.
Mm-hmm.
And this
Now-
deck just lets you do that.
Now, the argument against it and the reason it's in the maybe board is by itself, it's not very good, right? It's a 2/2 flyer for 3. And all the cards that are on this list, and I'm sure we'll go over more of them, are good cards by themselves already.
Right. This is like a build around me card.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And-
go ahead.
One of the other catches is, do you want to pair this with other cost reduction effects to have some level of redundancy? Like, are you going to toss in, I don't know, like maybe if you're leaning more white, maybe Stormscape Familiar?
Yeah, I actually haven't thought of that.
Because you kind of want, like 4 copies of a card isn't quite enough to guarantee you're going to have it every time.
Right.
So maybe actually Stormscape seems fine if you're mostly like getting value out of white creatures, because that also has flying.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
It seems pretty sweet.
So maybe that's something you also toss in there. Just make cheap flyers the deck.
Yeah. Peregrine
Um,
Drake is also a flyer,
It is,
and it didn't get banned this past week.
It didn't. I know. I've had so many people ask me what my opinion is on it, and it's just like, you know what my opinion is.
Yeah. That I have the same opinion as Mike.
Yeah, it's not healthy for the format, but I'm also not dreadfully surprised they didn't ban it.
Mike also really hates giving out his opinion in real life. It's really weird. Put a microphone in front of him and you can't get him to shut up. Ask him in real life, he'll blink at you until you go away.
Well, because most of the time people are asking me at FNM, and I go to FNM to play Magic, not podcast.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember when EMA spoilers first came out, people were talking about putting this with Peregrine Drake. And the issue is, at first people were saying like, oh, we just rebuild familiars with Drake instead of Fairy. And now we've got another familiar effect that reduces the cost of Drake. And then it turned out that was not the optimal option.
It just turned out that it was wholly unnecessary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It turns out 5 mana, not as much as we thought it was.
Yeah. Pauper is pretty fast, but it's like not as fast as Modern.
Yeah. Like,
Yes, thankfully.
Yeah.
although I will say, last night I got to experience the supreme bliss of piloting Stompy against Drake. And let me tell you, that matchup is a breeze. Like, they just don't interact quickly enough to counter what you're trying to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love Stompy. I'm a green mage, so
Yeah, I'm not really the aggro player, so it's a little bit of like alien hand syndrome with me trying to like pilot an aggro deck. And Stompy just like, there were only good lines against Drake.
yeah.
Like I don't think at any point I was like, oh man, if he has this one card, I just lose. It was just like, okay, if he has this one card, I might take another turn to kill him.
And
Yeah.
you didn't even have aerial volley on your sideboard, right?
No. I just went. I don't even. I think I sideboarded in a singleton copy of Relic of Progenitus, and that was it.
And then immediately after, he got to play the awesome Pig Trinket matchup.
Yeah, that was that was not good.
It was fun. We had fun.
It was fun.
We had a good time.
I think
Mike
I think we determined that the only way that Stompy wins that matchup is just having the absolute nuts. And
Mike does this thing to intimidate people where he you tap your mana and he says the cards you're gonna play. But we've been playing together for so long. I just like show him the card and I'm like, yeah, here's my whole hand. Why don't you just look at it, Mike? It's cool.
It is a great way to throw players off because people don't like thinking that you know exactly what's in their hand.
Oh man,
Yeah.
I would hate that. I'm glad we don't live next to each other. We'll stick to Moto.
You just type it.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, so what else do we have on this list in terms of like neat things we can pair with Warden? Just to get back on topic a little.
So one thing. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Will.
I was just gonna say Wretched Griff.
Yes,
Because
definitely.
one, it makes the emerge cost cheaper, and it makes the hardcast cost cheaper. And I think going in Mole Drifter into Wretched Griff seems amazing.
Yes.
I also really, really like Aven Riftwatcher in this list. Aven Riftwatcher is a great utility creature. It's white and 2 generic for a 2/3 with fading, but every time it enters or leaves the battlefield, you gain 2 life. Oh, it's vanishing. Okay. They work similarly, but vanishing is the better one, right?
Vanishing is the easier to understand one.
Gotcha.
So both of them are, fading or vanishing X, where X is some number, and they come in with that many counters on them. Fading works that if you can't remove a counter from it, it dies, whereas vanishing is when the last counter is removed, it dies.
So fading is actually better because you get the creature an extra turn.
So fading 2 is better than vanishing 2 because you get it an extra turn, but they're similar but different.
I wonder why they created abilities that were so close.
Vanishing is actually a fixed version of fading because fading is a weird mechanic.
Yeah. Okay.
Like the wording of like if you can't remove one is just like very strange.
Yeah.
Because like for example, you could vampire Hexmage selling with fading and it would still be there till your opponent's next upkeep.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. Whereas vanishing, as soon as the counters come off, you're done.
Yeah.
I just looked, and Sky Hussar and Lee of Sky Knight are both uncommons because those would be dope in a deck with Warden of Evocile.
Sky Hussar would be ridiculous. Why don't you tell us what Sky Hussar does?
Sky Hussar is a white, blue, and 3 flying. When it comes into play, untap all creatures you control. Okay. Forecast. Tap 2 untapped white and or blue creatures you control. Reveal Sky Hussar from your hand. Draw a card. All right. Sky Hussar is broken, it turns out.
That seems amazing.
So because I have contacts within the peasant community, this is the payload for Soul Sisters.
Ooh,
Because you Soul Sisters, bunch of token producers, and run like a singleton island, and you just kind of dirtle around until you can, alpha strike them ridiculously.
That sounds fun.
Thieving Magpie has never been a common either. I'm trying to think of all these sweet flying creatures.
I mean, like most of what you're getting is just like value flying creatures that are a little bit better when they cost less.
Yeah. Core Skyfisher is another one. Since we have all these creatures with enter the battlefield effects, we could cycle them with Core Skyfisher over and over again.
And honestly, like Core Skyfisher for one just seems like that's almost a Delver.
Yeah.
And then we also have Eldrazi Sky Spawn on this list. That'd be a great Core Skyfisher target. So it seems like what we're really building towards here is some sort of blue-white flying mid-range style deck.
Yeah, I would also run like Ghostly Flicker or Momentary Blink.
I think I like Momentary Blink a little bit more.
Okay.
Because you're not, unless you're running Archaeomancer, you're not really trying to blink like 2 things at once. And I think you'd rather have like the slow, I'm going to blink something this turn, and then I'm going to blink it next turn.
Yeah.
Also, one of the other cards I like on here is Dwar Isle Avenger, which is blue and 4 for a 3/3, but it also has Surge 2 and a blue. So you could conceivably Surge for just blue if you have 2 of these out, or just for blue and a 1, and then that's going to be really easy with all of your cost reduced creatures.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, I'm trying to think. So turn 5, if you've got 5 lands, you go like Warden into Dwar Isle. That seems okay.
Seems good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Although 3/3 is not like the optimal body for like the air. Like I feel better about like Wretched Griff because that 3/4 just the fact that you can eat a Delver.
You know, I do kind of want Peregrine Drake in this deck just because it will untap. It's cheaper. Will untap all your mana. That allows you to surge very easily. And then like one of the strongest plays that the Drake deck has is Drake Muldrifter, and you could do that so easily with this deck if you had those cards.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. We also have Spinethopter on this list, and
that's the Phyrexian mana one, right?
yeah. So you could essentially play this for 2 life. Would kind of like in the soldiers decks they run Porcelain Legionnaire.
Yeah.
So this is kind of like that.
What's the body on Spinethopter?
It's just a 2/1, but it trades with Delver, which seems pretty good.
It
Yeah.
trades with Delver and it just gets in.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's an artifact, and if we play artifacts, we could play Spire Golem or what's the other? Somber Hoverguard.
Somber Hoverguard. Yeah.
Yeah. Why is Stormcrow on this list with the line through it?
because it's a joke. It's a joke. Flew right over you, buddy.
Haha, flyers. No, it didn't fly right over me. Dude, Stormcrow's a 20-turn clock. It's a flyer. It's great.
Maybe we could throw it in as a fun of white border.
Yeah. That's actually a pretty good segue into our next section because we were discussing your basic land proclivities before the show, Will. So let's sort of transition to the interview section. And we'll start with that question. What kind of basics do you run?
Okay, so it differs on Moto and in paper. On Moto, I just run the full art basic lands, and in paper, I play one of each. I have one ofs pretty much for all my lands. Different arts, different sets. It's I kind of like it because it tilts people, and
yeah,
I don't know. I get some joy in that, but
it would tilt me so hard.
Yeah.
So let's kind of get into like, so obviously, you know, you're known as a content creator for Pauper. Like how did you get into Pauper?
So I just graduated college this past year, and while I was in college, I didn't have a job, so I was just going to school full time, so I didn't have an income, and I wanted to play Magic, and I had a elf deck for Modern, but I just wanted something different, you know, like because Modern is pretty linear format. At least the deck that I was playing was pretty linear, and I wanted to I just wanted to play with other cards, and I wanted to do it cheaply without having to invest in a ton of different like Modern staples. So then I actually found out about Pauper from Tolarian Community College. I think his Affinity video is what got me onto Pauper. And back in the day, I first started playing in Kamigawa block, and I bought a starter deck, and it was from I think it was from Original Mirrodin, so like after Kamigawa block, and it had the artifact lands in it, and it was kind of like a throwback to that for me. It was kind of like a memory of my childhood. So I picked up Affinity and Pauper on Moto, and I just started playing, and I grew in love with the format, and I just think it's pretty sweet playing with all these cards that are banned in other formats.
We do kind of have the monopoly on really, really powerful cards that are banned or restricted in almost every format.
Yeah, Gush. Oh my god.
I realized a month ago, I was like, man, Gush is a good card. And
Yeah.
and like that was my reaction to it. And then I was like, oh wait, this is like wildly, wildly powerful, isn't it?
So the reason that it's like in other formats it's banned because it's a combo piece, right? Like you gush into your combo. But on Pauper, in Pauper, it's really just free draw 2 cards, and like maybe that sounds really, really good because obviously it is. But that the Delver deck that plays Gush also wants a lot of islands because it's trying to play Spire Golems too. So there is a bit of a trade off there.
Mm-hmm. It's really good in Is It Fiend decks.
Yes, definitely.
I mean, so the other thing is, you know, I don't blink twice at Thoughtcast for 1, and that's almost Ancestral Recall.
Yeah. Yeah, Thoughtcast is probably one of my favorite cards in Affinity.
Yeah, like I don't know. It's weird to think like all these cards are like super high powered, but in our format they're just kind of they're staples. They just kind of exist and we know about them.
Mm-hmm.
So, how did you get started into producing content?
So I have a background in making videos and stuff, and I always wanted to make videos, but since I was in college, I didn't really have the time. And I didn't know like what topic I wanted to make my videos on, because like I have other hobbies like Rocket League and other video games. So I knew I wanted to do it about like gaming, but I just didn't know what I would be okay with making videos for a long time. And as soon as I started playing Pauper, like I just got hooked on it, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna start making videos after I get out of college, and that's what I did.
Nice.
And
Yeah.
so far, so good.
I mean, yeah, your videos are amazing and very popular, and everyone loves them. So we're really, really glad that you're in the content producing realm for our format, because we have there's not a lot of stuff really.
Yeah, I say the same for you guys. Like I wish we had more people that created content, because like I want Pauper to be a thing. I want Wizards to support Pauper. At least come out with a ban list, like a unified legality list and ban list for it, because I think it's just really fun to play. And what other format can you just pick up like 10 decks for the price of one deck in like Modern, you know?
I mean,
Yeah.
I always like to tell people, for less than the cost of Jund and Modern, you could buy the entire format, just
Yeah.
like 4 copies of every staple, just straight up.
And it's great. It's a great format. It's really catching on here in Austin, thankfully, because I think the biggest problem with Pauper is if you buy all those decks, then no one plays them, and that's kind of sad. But
Yeah.
it is very rewarding to know that like you can play Magic on the cheap.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
I think one of the things also that helps us is just the fact that we do have like a pretty solid legacy community here, and you kind of see a little bit of crossover there, and also the fact that we have stores with great singles selections. Because like one of the worst parts, and I see people complaining about this regularly, is like, I can't find copies of, I don't know, like Oubliette or Chainer's Edict or any of the other like big dollar cards, and some people, don't want to order them online. So, I think that's definitely helped us a lot, just being able to like buy cards locally or like show up day of. Like last night I had like half of Stompy. I put in an order at our LGS and they had it ready when I got there.
that's
So,
awesome. I used to live in Indianapolis, and I went to a store down there called Game Time, and I think I think I put it on your website in the section to
Oh,
find
yeah,
game
the
stores.
Map.
And they had a huge single selection, and we had like 20, 30 people show up for Pauper. And then after college, I moved out back to Illinois, and no one plays Pauper out here. So I'm strictly just playing on Moto right now until I can get it started up at my local game store. And I haven't been going that much to Friday Night Magic. I play Modern. I have a Merfolk deck now, which is really fun. But I don't really have a lot of time to go out and go to Friday Night Magic, but I'm trying to make more of an effort to do that, because editing videos takes quite a lot of effort and time.
There's a very good reason why our podcast is audio only.
Yeah, I thought about doing a podcast instead of videos just for that reason, but I couldn't. Like, I don't know. I didn't know if I could talk to myself. Like, Morrow has his podcast, his Drive to Work podcast, and like he can just talk to himself for days. Like, I don't know if I could do that.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like 2 to 3, maybe 4 is like your optimal number of people, but the solo podcast can be a little weird.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry to hurry us. I just want to make sure we get all these questions before the hour ends. What is the favorite play that you've made? It can be your best play, your worst play, or both.
Oh, favorite play.
Like, what's one moment where you were just like, gotcha?
Probably it's funny you say that, because you guys talked about this on your last episode, and that's using Crypt Rats to take out Young Wolves.
Yup.
And I was playing against, this was in paper, and I was playing against my my opponent, he totally thought it, like I couldn't do that. And we called the judge over, and he's like, "Oh yeah, that's legal." And then the guy was like, "Damn, that's a good play."
Cool trick.
Yeah. I think Crypt Rats is like, you can do some cool stuff with that card.
Yeah, it's definitely like one of the cards that at first looks very simple, but then there's a decent depth of play to it.
Yeah, you have to know the rules and how the stack works and everything.
Yeah.
So what about the game are you most nostalgic about? Like you sort of mentioned buying that Affinity deck. Is that really, I've already answered that question. Like you like Affinity because it reminds you of Mirrodin and being a kid?
Yeah. I stopped playing Magic for a while, like right around Mirrodin, because I think I was in 5th grade and I graduated and went to middle school. And then like my friends kind of like dispersed and got a new friend group. So I kind of stopped playing for a while. So it just reminds me of the exciting time where I didn't really know how to play Magic, but I was just playing for fun, you know?
That's sort of what Portal basics are for me. Like the first time I ever played Magic, my dad brought home a Portal set for me and my brother, like the 2-player like battle pack. Mm-hmm. And that's why I love those lands so much, because it reminds me of the first time I ever played Magic.
There's a common, it's called Moss Kami, and it's a 5/5 with trample for, I think, 5 generic and a green mana. And I used to think, it's from Kamigawa block, and I used to think that card was amazing. A 5/5, like, that's huge.
How do they deal with it?
I know.
Okay, so I left right around at Mirrodin. I had been playing from Masks block up until Mirrodin, and when I came back, the first thing someone showed me as like an example of like where cards were now was Vampire Nighthawk, and it blew my mind because I was like used to creatures being bad, and it was just like, oh, here you go. Here's this 2/3 for 3 mana. It has flying, lifelink, and death touch. And on top of that, it's not good enough to see play in every format. Like that was mind blowing to me. I was just like, this is ridiculous. Like, what do I do now? How bad is blue? And it turns out it's pretty bad, but
the creature for me that has the most nostalgia is called Devoted Hero. It's white for a 1/2, but it was part of like the Portal thing, and like it's this picture of like this elf like fending off a giant with a spear, and I always thought that Devoted Hero was so badass.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
In my videos, this is another nostalgia thing. In my videos, all my basic lands are from I think it's Champions of Kamigawa.
Yes.
Because that was kind of when I first started playing, so it's kind of a throwback to that. So just a little Easter egg for you guys.
Remember Kamigawa? I remember.
I love the art from Kamigawa. I think it's my favorite art.
The art and the flavor are just great in that set. It's just such a shame that like so much of that block is unplayable. Like it vacillates wildly. Like you've got stuff like Sensei's Divining Top and Umezawa's Jite next to like, I don't know, Ichiga who topples Oaks.
Yeah.
Who, if I remember correctly, is just a big beater legendary.
Yeah, the names in that set are crazy.
Yeah, it was a weird time. Also, the fact that it was like legendary matters as a theme, so you had like uncommon legendary creatures.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So one last question for you, Will, and then we can sort of move on. What uncommon would you want to see downshifted to a common?
And caveat, it can be anything. It doesn't have to be something that would be healthy for the format. Just what is the dream?
Yeah.
Aether Vial.
Yeah.
Aether Vial, because I hate Counterspell. And I'm a green mage. I hate Counterspell, and being able to play a creature with it not being countered just like makes me feel so good. Like I play I say I hate Counterspell, but then I play Modern Merfolk, right? But Merfolk's kind of like it's a tempo based deck, but I love the like how Merfolk works, and I love slivers, and I think that would make slivers so sweet in Pauper.
It would make it pretty sweet.
I haven't played in Affinity, honestly.
Yeah.
Really?
It's a 1-mana artifact that lets you play dudes. So I mean, you keep it on like 2, and you can play like Atog and Carapace Force. Maybe it's not very good because there's a very
Flash
widespread.
in an Atog, sack everything, fling.
Yeah, exactly.
That seems
There
pretty
you go.
sweet.
There you go.
Sack the
That seems
vial.
pretty sweet. Yeah.
All right. So you're one of those people who want something absurd in the format.
Oh yeah, just for my own amusement.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. You know, I always tell people my big dream is that they're gonna make Astral Slide a common, even though I know it would be bad.
Yeah.
Like, I know that's not like a good thing for the format, but we all got a dream.
Oh yeah.
I think mine would be Signal Pest.
Ooh, that's a
Really?
good one.
Just off the top of my
Okay.
head.
That's a good one.
Actually, is there any aggro deck that wouldn't want Signal Pest?
No, it's just it's good in everything basically. It's just yeah, I can't think of a single deck that wouldn't want it. It's a generic, like Goblins would want it, Stompy would want it, Slivers would want it, Affinity would want it, Mono White Soldiers would want it. You know, it's just like such a good card.
Yeah.
Oh man, we should make our own set for Pauper and just have all these insane cards.
That's a good idea and actually something that Mike has considered.
Really,
What?
that'd be sweet.
Just making a custom set.
Yeah, didn't we talk about that once where you wanted to play test some of these uncommons as though they were commons in the format?
Yeah. We were considering doing something like who is it? Is it Caleb Durward who did the Banned and Modern
Yeah, but
set? He went through everything on the ban list and like played it against other modern decks to see if it really deserved to be on there. So yeah, we could definitely try and like figure something out in that vein.
Yeah, I just wish, Magic would just come up with a unified list, because I think that's the only thing holding Pauper back.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so out of all the paper commons, there's only a handful of them that are problems. The rest of them are just kind of like janky and weird. Like no one's, you know, really upping their percentage points that much if they're running Library of Leng as anti-hand hate. Like you're just kind of adding in one more card that helps you minimally.
Right.
Like I definitely think like High Tide needs to stay completely away from this format.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like there's no good fair use for High Tide.
Yeah.
But like even Sinkhole isn't as bad as people think it is.
What do you guys think of Goblin Grenade?
It makes goblins semi-playable, so I'm okay with it.
It's really not a problem in our meta.
It gives the deck a lot of reach. Like if you're on 2 mana, you only functionally need to get your opponent to 10, but
Yeah, because it's double Goblin Grenade Fire Blast.
Yeah. That seems good.
Like it can be very, very explosive, pun intended. But I don't know. It's never been like it feels bad when it gets countered because you're just getting 2 for 1 automatically.
So let's shoehorn this in at the very end here. Drake's not banned. What do we think about that?
Boo, hiss.
Sadness.
But we're going to keep playing. Actually, last night we were talking about maybe house banning it, if it would bring more people back to the format. We had a really honest discussion about it. We are open to that in our meta just because we would rather have people play Pauper than be too scared because of Drake.
Oh yeah, and I think Drake not getting banned has drawn a lot of eyes to the Pauper format. So a lot of people are like knowing what it is now, but a lot of people are also like, oh, I'm not going to play it because they didn't ban this crazy.
It's this weird like we've gotten a lot of press, but it isn't actually that good press.
Yeah.
Because it's I don't know, like it's a mixed bag. I feel like Pauper in general is getting a lot more attention from, you know, even larger content producers like Evan Irwin, who is on the Magic Mike's podcast. He's a huge fan of the format. You know, I don't think he plays it that much because I don't know. Sometimes his evaluations of cards are a little weird in my opinion. But you know, having
Cheon
someone.
just made a... Sorry,
Oh,
go
yeah.
ahead.
Yeah, Cheon's playing a lot
Paul
too.
Cheon's been playing a decent bit. He just put up a video series of him doing Drake, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
not
okay.
Not exactly helping out our cause.
So
No.
I don't really want to house ban it because I don't want to create additional disparity. But again, I would put the format above my like personal opinion. So if people wanted to house ban it, maybe we should approach our LGS about that, Mike. I would be okay with it.
Yeah.
I think it needs a little bit more time to see if like someone figures out what like the huge meta call is.
Yeah, Stompy.
Assuming it's not just everyone plays Stompy.
Yeah.
'Cause then I feel like then that pushes it more towards modern. You know, you're just trying to aggro and kill your opponent before they can combo off.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't
So-
know. I just want control to have a place in the meta again.
yeah, I agree.
So we're sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I agree. I don't like counters, but yeah, I think they do have a place in the format.
Yeah, it's just like I keep telling people, it's not how much of the meta Drake takes up that matters. It's what it pushed out to get that chunk of the meta.
All the mid range.
Yeah, because like if Drake showed up and even if it had 25% of the meta, but it just kind of depressed everything else by like 2%, that would be fine. It's the fact that, mono black control sees maybe two 5-0s a month.
Yeah,
Or
if
like
that.
Yeah, like control and mid range are just very, very bad in this current meta. So I don't know. It's frustrating.
Yeah.
We're coming up on an hour here. Will, why don't you tell us a little bit more about Pauper Fox, where we can find your videos and all that stuff?
Sure. So you guys can follow me on Twitter at Pauper_Fox, and I have a YouTube channel over on YouTube. It's youtube.com/PauperFox. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
And we'll
All
put
right.
all those links in our video description as well. And also, Pauper Fox is one of our listed channels. There's like a little panel on the right in YouTube. It's like, people you may know, or it's not people you may know. I think ours is called Friends of the Show. Pauper Fox is there as well. If you don't want to search for him, you can look for it on our YouTube channel.
Yeah, and I will be adding you guys to that on my channel too.
And definitely remember to check out the video that we collaborated on. We all, contributed a little bit of audio and, check it out. Go support Pauper Fox. And, he's one of the handful of people out there making content for our format. So
Yeah, and then once you finish watching that, come back and listen to this. And then after you
just
listen
keep-
to it, go back to the video and keep going in an infinite loop.
We
Yeah,
got
dude.
him.
you got them. They're trapped. They can't escape now.
The Pauper Vortex. That's actually not a bad name for a Pauper content producer.
Yeah,
No,
there
it's
you go.
not.
Someone might steal that.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm cool with that.
Yeah. We'll let that one out there. If someone wants to take it, go for it.
Do it.
So yeah, we're coming up on an hour here. Adrian, how about you take us out here?
Yeah, that's all we got for today. Special thanks to Pat's Games for giving us a place to play Weekly Pauper. Special thanks to L for the use of his song Quantitative as our theme music. You can find that and other great tracks under the name LLL on SoundCloud. Please subscribe to us and Pauper Fox on YouTube. Follow us both on Twitter and like us on Facebook. We're also on iTunes, so if you subscribe there, please leave an iTunes review. It really helps us out. If you have an idea for a discussion topic or a deck list you want us to discuss, you can either use the contact form on our website or email us directly at colorcommentary@gmail.com. Also, special thanks to Will for joining us on today's episode.
Thanks for having me, guys.
And I'm Adrian Gonzalez,
I'm Michael Petchek.
signing off for Color Commentary.